Good afternoon and welcome to the 4 to 5. I'm Chad Silver here with Tim Buckley and Lauren Coleman. We have lots to talk about today, including Triad school closings thanks to the approaching tropical storm.
Right now, all eyes are on Ian and where it's headed next. The Category 4 storm ripped through Florida, bringing devastating rain and harrowing winds to the East Coast.
Millions of people are without power, cell phone towers are down, and houses are underwater. The video is hard to watch as we wait to see the full extent of this storm in Southwest Florida.
Here in the Triad, emergency personnel are preparing for what Ian will bring us. While it will be nowhere near what we're seeing in Florida, we are on high alert.
And schools are also taking precautions today. Students in Guilford County and Davie County will learn remotely tomorrow. Alamance Burlington, Winston-Salem Forsyth, and Randolph County schools are all closed tomorrow. Tim, not really a surprise when we see what's headed our way.
Not a surprise, no, but still changes compared to where we were a few days ago. You know, yesterday it wasn't looking quite as windy as I think it will be for tomorrow. So the wind threat has gotten worse. It's also gotten faster as well. Let me show you here. This is the latest on the storm system. Still a tropical storm, which again, let's not focus too much on that. Winds are at 70 miles per hour. It is forecast to become a hurricane by South Carolina time tomorrow. You can see our location here. That's Daytona Beach and Jacksonville on the east coast of Florida. The storm pinwheeling offshore. But what it's going to do is take a pretty dramatic turn to the north and a turn toward the Carolinas. Right now, the current forecast does have it becoming a hurricane again. A 5-mile difference, not a significant one, but still, this storm is coming right into the Carolinas, and that's what makes it bad. It's not a grazing blow, it's literally coming right for us, pushing inland. So we're going to get the full brunt of the wind, the full brunt of the rain. There's nowhere else for it to go. Here's your timeline. We have nothing to worry about today, but when you wake up tomorrow, that's 5 a.m. right there. This is 11 a.m. We'll start out with light rain early on, and then it gets heavier. So by lunchtime, this is when the heavy rain starts to pivot in. The worst the weather will get will be right around the evening rush hour tomorrow. I'm expecting tropical downpours and 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts for several hours. So from late afternoon, the evening and the overnight hours, that's when it'll be at its worst in our area. I just showed you the rain. This is the wind. We're looking at wind gusts well over 40 and 50 miles per hour by that middle of the afternoon and evening time frame. They will start to go down on Saturday. So the flip side of this thing arriving earlier is that it actually improves quicker on Saturday. But let me tell you this, you don't want to be out and about tomorrow afternoon and evening or tomorrow night. It is going to be that kind of storm for us. I do think the power outage threat has gone up. Make sure you have your batteries, flashlights, and phones charged up and ready to go.
Today is time for all North Carolinians to ready ourselves to stay safe. So for North Carolinians, I want to be clear. This storm can still be dangerous and even deadly.
Right now, preparations for increased rain and wind across the Triad are now underway.
And tomorrow, as Tim mentioned, is the big day for us. WFMY News 2's Amber Lake found out what schools and local agencies are doing in the few hours left before the storm moves in.
Right, guys, so I've been out in the Triad today focusing on 3 main topics. We're talking roads, we're talking schools, and we're talking preparedness ahead of this storm. And like we mentioned, Guilford County Schools is going to be operating remotely tomorrow. Alamance Burlington Schools, however, is going to be closed due to a tropical storm threat. The reason for this, they're worried about how the weather is going to be like for students whenever they travel to and from school. And with wind gusts expected up to 50 miles per hour, it can be dangerous for a school bus or anyone for that matter to maneuver in those conditions. ABSS says it has been in contact with the National Weather Service and wanted to go ahead and make this decision today to give parents enough time to plan.
And it was just basically the tropical storm warnings that are coming into effect and the associated risk of flooding and high winds. There's just no good way to have school tomorrow because the rain would be coming in potentially when students would be coming into school, and then another band of rain when students would be leaving for the afternoon.
NCDOT agrees that the weather tomorrow will make it hard for drivers on the road. That's why crews have been out along the highways and interstate all day long clearing storm drains. Now again, Guilford County schools will operate remotely tomorrow. There are many other districts that have closed and gone remote as well. You'll just have to tune into our website to get updates within the next few hours. Live here in Alamance County, Amber Lake, WFMY News 2.
Amber, thank you. Many areas in Florida are underwater today. Power is out for more than 2.6 million people. First responders have been rescuing people all day, and yet we have yet to hear about any storm-related deaths. Ian is now off the other coast of Florida, but that's the bad news. It'll be able to strengthen over warm ocean waters as it heads north.
As North Carolina prepares for heavy rain and winds from the remnants of Hurricane Ian, now is the time to check on your emergency preparedness kit. Scott Muthersbaugh is the public information officer for Guilford County Emergency Services. He says it's always better to prepare in advance.
One of the issues that we run into pretty routinely is everyone kind of gets in that mode and starts thinking about how they might need extra food, extra water with a coming storm, and that has a fair amount of scarcity to it. So there are times where people are running into those shortages, and if you can prepare in advance, then you're not scrambling in those situations.
Beyond food and water, Muthersbaugh says an emergency preparedness kit should include essential items like batteries, a flashlight, medication, an identification card, or any important documents in case you may need to evacuate a situation.
Even things like just charging your cell phone and having a pair of shoes ready to go keeps you from being in a situation where you're trying to do that in an emergency if you can be ready in advance.
As we round out National Preparedness Month, he wants to emphasize the importance of being aware of how to mitigate emergencies in your own home.
So knowing how to safely turn off the water, turn off the gas, turn off the electricity if the situation merits that, just kind of learning the in and out of how to manage your own home can really help in both either a small or a large emergency, if it's just a leaky pipe or if it's a situation where there were a rupture because of an exterior issue.
He says knowing the ins and outs of your home can help you in situations where emergency services may not be able to respond to you right away.
Let's bring Tim back in here. Tim, you're talking about strong winds tomorrow.
Yeah.
We haven't really felt strong winds in a while.
No, it's been a while for sure, and we see this with hurricanes or with tropical systems. I have the graphic behind us. We're generally going to be in that 50-mile-per-hour range, which sometimes we see that in a thunderstorm, and it might down a tree here or there, but that's something that happens within 30 minutes. This is that type of wind for about 12 hours.
Wow.
So when you have that going on, it can kind of be accumulated. You might weaken a tree a little bit, and then as it continues to be windy, then it might come down a little bit later. But you can see here, we are concerned about 40 to 50 mile per hour winds between the afternoon, the evening, and then that overnight time frame. And I'll tell you what, one of the biggest things I get questions about from people is when it's windy at night and you're trying to sleep. They want to know, when is that wind going to stop? Because that can be pretty spooky, pretty scary, especially if you have trees around your home. So the most important thing to do tomorrow, I would say for folks, is find a cozy spot by around 3 to 4 p.m. and kind of hang there for a day or, well, maybe not a whole day, basically just the night. Because by Saturday morning it will be improving, and just kind of hunker down, put on a movie. It's going to be cold outside. If you do lose power, which some of us will, the good news is we're at that time of year where you don't really need the heat, and you don't really need the air conditioner. So small victories there, I guess, but I do think that type of wind is going to cause power outages.
And just important to keep the phone charged, your computer charged, all your electronics, just in case you do lose out on that power.
And don't forget whatever you have in the yard. So for me, it's just silly things like yard furniture, but I've already stacked them up and put them close to the house so they don't end up in the neighbor's yard. Trampolines are notorious for this, trash cans, whatever. But even like loose branches, you could go and trim them still. We have a couple more hours of daylight. That helps, and also clearing your drains. The gutters, the drains in the yard, that helps for flooding concerns, which that's a problem too.
One thing that I really appreciate is having one of those external batteries that you can plug things into, like cell phone chargers.
Sure.
Because, I mean, the power goes out, you're left with what you got on that phone unless you have some other way to charge it.
Every time the minutes go by, you're like, oh no, I'm losing power.
I'm going to have to charge my external battery because you have to charge that
Yes, absolutely.
too, and I don't know that mine is right now.
Well, you'll want to be weather aware this week. Keep up to date by downloading our free WFMY News 2 app. You'll be the first to know about significant impacts or weather alerts.
And as we go to break, let's take another live picture in Florida today. This is in Jacksonville, Florida. And you might have seen in Tim's radar, this storm is actually, this is Cocoa Beach. The storm is off the eastern coast now of Florida. You can see some waves there. Even some surfers, it looks like. This is kind of the weather that they love to go out in, even though you probably shouldn't. This storm will continue to push north, and we will have another update on the system coming up. We'll be right back.
Right now, you're taking a live look at St. Augustine Beach, where it is now expected to hit South Carolina's coast tomorrow morning. As you can see, it looks pretty calm compared to what we've been seeing in this area. The waves are moving, but they're not moving very feverishly. It looks like we do have a couple surfers out there in the area, but things appear to be somewhat calm at the moment. There is a chance Ian could strengthen, while in the ocean, our chief meteorologist Tim Buckley is closely tracking it. He'll have an update in just a few minutes.
All right, let's get to your 4 to 5 roundup now. First up today, a 30-year-old woman died in a crash on I-85 in Randolph County early this morning. Highway Patrol says Amity Plunkett's car hit the Trinity Road bridge and then crossed over into the path of a tractor trailer. She died. The truck driver was not hurt. Investigators are trying to figure out what caused the crash. Greensboro police responded to Dudley High School this morning on reports of a man with a weapon. When they got there, they quickly found out that was not the case. Instead, they say they found an adult going through a mental health crisis. The department's behavioral response team helped that person. No one was hurt. The latest weekly COVID update from the state shows a promising trend. The number of COVID patients in North Carolina hospitals has taken a nice dip. The latest number is 890. It's the first time this number has dropped below 900 since July 3rd, nearly 3 months ago. All right, let's expand this graph to show all of this year. I've highlighted the area from the last graph to give you some perspective. We've come a long way from the days in January when hospitals were treating more than 5,000 COVID patients. At our lowest point this year, patient count was down to around 350 back in April. We're not there yet, but we are getting closer. All right, back to Florida now, where it could be days before we know the full extent of the devastation there. We have seen a lot of the damage on social media and TV, and keep in mind many areas don't have power or even cell phone service. The state is working to truck in mobile cell phone towers so people can get a hold of loved ones. Here's the good news today. We have not heard of any storm-related deaths. We are hoping and praying it stays that way. We'll be right back.
Right now, Tropical Storm Ian is moving towards the Atlantic coast. We're taking We're taking another live look out at Cocoa Beach. Not too much has changed since we last checked in about 5 minutes ago. As you can see, the winds have calmed down some. It looks like we do have a couple of swimmers out on the water. You can see this pier appears to be pretty slippery, but again, things have calmed down a bit. There is some wind as the camera is shaking from side to side, but again, quite calm. Right now, it's on Florida's east coast and will soon head for South Carolina. It is expected to hit the coast tomorrow morning. There is a chance it could gain strength once it leaves South Carolina. It's projected to head our way. Our chief meteorologist Tim Buckley is following it closely. Tim, about what time will Ian arrive in the Triad?
Yeah, so keep in mind when we're talking about a storm like this, it's not a single point. It is a big area, hundreds of miles wide, already noticing rainfall approaching the South Carolina coast. So that's just the beginning. We will start to see our first rain from Ian early tomorrow morning. It starts out light enough and then it gets heavier and worse throughout the day. Right now, Ian is a tropical storm. However, as it moves closer to South Carolina, it's over water a bit longer. It could reorganize a bit. Nothing crazy here, but I do think it goes from 70 miles per hour to 75. That makes it a hurricane. What's the setup? You might have noticed it's already been windy today. We have high pressure to the north, this hurricane to the south. The winds are happening in the middle. So that's why it's already windy. We will stay breezy overnight, but it will get much worse throughout the day tomorrow because the storm is curving toward us. It really has a beeline toward the Triad. And so what happens for us? Well, we get the brunt of all this rainfall, which intensifies through the middle of the day, the afternoon, and especially the overnight. And a lot of this wind is expanding. So it used to be a more compact storm. Most of North Carolina tomorrow is going to have those high winds as it pushes through. And then the southern half of the storm is no big deal. So once we get towards Saturday morning, we're basically done with anything severe with this storm. Let's break it down on the path side of things. As I mentioned, the center of the storm goes like this, but a ballooning area of wind and rain is going to be over our whole area. So the track is not what we need to focus on. Instead, let's look at an hour-by-hour model. This takes us into tomorrow morning. Those are temperatures. So it's chilly outside. Light to moderate rain for the morning commute, getting very, very heavy. This time tomorrow, it's going to be bad. I won't be able to stand outside this time tomorrow. We will have winds gusting high and very heavy rainfall that will continue through about a little after midnight toward early Saturday morning. That rain should amount to about 2 to 4 inches. That might not sound like a lot, but that's about a month's worth of rain in about a day. So that could create some flooding issues. This is the flood outlook as of now. They have it highlighted in South Carolina, but we are in a significant risk as well. So we could see localized flooding. The wind threat, that's gone up. In recent days, the threat for winds has increased. So you see right here, our in-house model is showing widespread wind gusts over 50 miles per hour in the late afternoon through tomorrow evening. That could result in this, scattered power outages. I think that's getting more likely for our area, so we'll be prepared for that. If you're preparing for scattered power outages and to avoid floodwaters, you're doing what you need to be doing. Getting a lot of questions about tornadoes. Not expected for our area. It's too cool. But east of I-95, that's a big concern. At the coast, they also have to worry about storm surge. We do have that tropical storm warning in effect. That means the high wind and the high rain amounts, they're on the way. Be prepared to make sure you're staying safe tomorrow. Stay home if you can when it gets the worst. That'll be the afternoon, evening, and overnight. We'll be with you every step of the way.
All right now we're taking a live look at St. Augustine Beach where Ian is now. As you can see, visibility is quite low beyond the waves that we can see in this camera here. The wind is going about. We can tell by the trees how they're just going back and forth. It doesn't look like anyone is in the area, which is great news there. You definitely wouldn't want to be caught out in those waters, but you can see the wind is pretty fierce in this area. Right now, the tropical storm will move out to the Atlantic Ocean. It's expected to hit South Carolina's coast tomorrow morning. There is a chance Ian could strengthen while in the ocean. Our chief meteorologist, Tim Buckley, he is tracking it. He'll have an update in the next few minutes.
Before hitting Florida, Ian tore through Cuba. A Greensboro man with family there told WFMY News 2's Itanese McMiller the road to recovery will be a rough one.
Hurricane Ian left a trail of destruction in western Cuba. Current conditions are devastating, with nearly the entire country without power. But thankfully, Felix Simpa has been able to make contact with his family and loved ones there.
I have an uncle in Cuba, in a resort area in Varadero, which is kind of like in a touristy area. But there is, I just spoke with them yesterday, and there's no power anywhere in Cuba, so they're completely out of power, the whole island. So, which is, tough for them. The Cuban people are tough. They've been through a lot, and they know how to endure and live without electricity.
And Semper says because their homes are located in a resort area in Havana, the infrastructure is stronger, so their homes only suffered some wind damage. He says he's just happy to know his family there is safe because there is at least 2 confirmed deaths in Cuba from the hurricane. And as the storm moves away from Cuba and pummels Florida, he's been checking in with his father who lives there.
He's fine. They're getting, wind and getting rain. Yeah, of course I was concerned. Every year I went through Hurricane Andrew back in '92, which was a huge hurricane, destroyed half of Miami. So I know what it's all about to be through a hurricane. So yeah, I really feel for them because, the anxiety and all the danger.
And Semper says his family in Cuba has gone through tough times before, and he knows they will navigate as best they can in the wake of Ian.
Hello, hello, hello. Ice cold milk and an Oreo cookie. They forever go together.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the 4 to 5. I'm Chad Silver here with Tim Buckley and Lauren Coleman. We have a lot to talk about today, including several of our school districts in the Triad that are either closed or working remote tomorrow.
Right now, all eyes are on Ian and where it's headed next. The Category 4 storm ripped through Florida, bringing devastating rain and harrowing winds to the East Coast.
Right now, millions of people are without power, cell phone towers are down, and countless homes are underwater. Unfortunately, it's still too soon to know the full extent of the damage.
Here in the Triad, emergency personnel are preparing for what Ian will bring us. While it will be nowhere near what we're seeing down in Florida, we are on high alert.
The schools are also taking precautions, as you can imagine. Students in Guilford County and Davie County will learn remotely tomorrow. Alamance Burlington, Winston-Salem Forsyth, Asheboro City, and Randolph County schools are all closed tomorrow, canceled. All right, Tim, now we got to take a look at what this storm is doing now.
Yeah, thanks guys. You know, a lot of people asking, hey, is the storm already here? It's already getting really windy outside, and it's a fair question. We do have these gusty winds happening right now, but just for perspective, they're about 20 to 30 miles per hour at the moment. They'll be about double that tomorrow, closer to 40 to 50 miles per hour. So this is not really related to the storm. Instead, it's part of a front that's sitting still in our area. That front is going to guide what's left of Ian toward our area. Now, right now, it's a strong tropical storm with winds of 70 miles per hour. Do you think there's a big difference between a hurricane with 75 and a tropical storm with 70? There's not. They're about the same thing, but that's what's heading up towards South Carolina. And I want to discourage you from looking too much at this cone. Why? The cone is about this wide. The storm is about this wide. So it's not very helpful to show you where the wind and the rain are. So let's get to work. Here's what we're looking at for tomorrow. It's dry early in the morning, but by the morning commute, you start to see light to moderate rain moving in. This is lunchtime. Notice the yellows and the oranges, that means heavier rain. The reds mean you can barely drive in that. That's what's going to be around for the evening time, and it will linger for the nighttime. The worst time to be outside will be the afternoon, evening, and overnight. Here's the wind. We're showing you the wind now. Those were temperatures on the last graphic. This is the morning. Winds are gusting around 30 to 35 miles per hour. This is the bad stuff. That's the late afternoon and into the evening. Those are widespread wind gusts around 50 miles per hour. We haven't had that very much in the Triad since I've worked here. It's been about 8 years. So we need to take that pretty seriously heading into tomorrow evening. It will rapidly improve early Saturday morning, and that's a change. So this is pretty much just a Friday and Friday night system. Saturday, hopefully we can get back to normal. This is your planner, mostly looking at the afternoon and evening for your Friday. We'll have you covered every step of the way. You can count on our team here at News 2.
Right now, we've got an up-close look at one of the places hardest hit by Hurricane Ian, Fort Myers.
Yeah, power is out across the area, increasing the chances for life-threatening conditions among people who chose not to evacuate.
This is the marina in downtown Fort Myers, the heart of downtown. Back behind us as you come across the bridge into town, this is the first sight you see. This is a river. All of these boats used to be docked out here. As the storm surge came in, they lifted these large boats. You can hear the alarm on this one going off still. Picked these boats up, threw them on shore. We were talking to a boat owner. The boat is his home. His boat was tied up over there. It is a block inland. Both of his cars were submerged. He had to climb to the second floor of a hotel, he said, to escape the storm surge. This was a violent, frightening storm, Hurricane Ian, here in Fort Myers. Power is out across Lee County, and there is widespread concern about the potential for loss of life for the people who did not heed evacuation orders. We've seen Coast Guard helicopters in the air. We have seen homes that have been destroyed. This is a community that has a lot of cleanup to do. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Fort Myers.
Devastating pictures there. Just like other things in life, there are storm prep myths and facts, and especially as this storm is moving up through. You know, I grew up in Florida, so I'm going to give you the first example of a myth that was very, very common. This right here, throw your lawn furniture into your pool so it doesn't get swept away. Well, don't do it. They can turn into huge flying objects. It can damage the pool itself. They say, of course, you should be putting everything in your garage, your house, or a secure building. Make sure you're doing that with your lawn furniture tonight. Another common myth I've seen here in North Carolina, and it deals with securing windows when a storm is coming in. The chief meteorologist from Tampa explains.
Don't tape up your windows. Number one, that's not going to stop debris from flying through, and also, it's going to leave big pieces of glass if it does break, and that can be really dangerous.
All right, so taping windows, very common. Now here's another one, and it deals with flooding. Storing your valuables in the dishwasher. So it's long been told that if you put your stuff in the dishwasher, if your house gets flooded, well, it'll keep the water out. No, that is not what happens. If your house is flooded, your dishwasher will be flooded too. So all three common myths. What isn't a myth, though, is filling up your bathtub.
Not for a bath.
Not for a bath.
That's
Okay,
for the
all right.
toilet, right?
And not for drinking water, right? It is
Okay.
for the toilet so that you can flush the toilet when the systems aren't working and stuff like that. You use it so that you can make the toilet flush without having the
Interesting.
actual power, right?
Okay.
All right, so another fact is filling up your Ziploc bags with water, sticking them in the freezer. It helps keep the food colder if the power goes out, right? And you've got all the food in the freezer, but then it also doubles as drinking water, right?
Monique and I were talking about that yesterday. She said you can do that with water bottles as well, making
Sure
sure
can.
you keep those frozen too.
Yep, so though we got some myths there, we got some facts there for you right before all of that happens.
And I know a lot of this has to do with power outages. And Tim Buckley, you're expecting that power outages will happen in our area.
So I do think that that is more of a concern now than it looked yesterday or a couple of days ago. Part of the reason for that, the storm has been a little stronger and it's tracking more closely to our area and more quickly. So not as much time for it to weaken. As of now, we've upped our wind forecast to about 35 to 50 mile per hour. Those are gusts. The sustained winds will be about 20 to 30 miles per hour. So that means scattered power outages, that's going to happen. Some people are going to lose power, and that's all there is to it. And what we've seen in recent years is when it's a big storm over much of the southeast, sometimes it can take a while for that to get back on. So be prepared just in case you're an unlucky customer. Rain amounts could result in flooding as well. This is the flood risk for tomorrow. This is brand new from the Weather Service. They've indicated a large area of moderate risk of flash flooding, which means we're going to get too much rain too quickly. So localized flooding will develop and it'll be difficult to drive in the worst of the storm with 2 to 4 inches of rain. Just to remind you, the worst part of the storm is afternoon, evening, overnight for Friday. One good news for us, not expecting tornadoes. That's mostly east of I-95 in North Carolina and South Carolina. Bottom line, for tomorrow morning, rain is arriving. Light to moderate at first. It gets heavier throughout the day. The evening and the nighttime hours are when we get those highest winds and the heaviest rain. If you can, it's a good idea to just kind of stay home and ride this thing out. We'll have updates for you throughout the entire storm.
We are checking back in at St. Augustine Beach where Ian is now. We have a live picture there where you can see that we have some heavy winds. The trees, they are swaying to the right side there. The wind seems to have picked up in the last few minutes or so since we last checked in with this camera. Visibility is pretty low as you look beyond the waves. We have gray skies and there doesn't seem to be any people around in the area, so that hopefully means that they're staying safe. Again, Ian is expected to hit South Carolina's coast tomorrow morning. There is a chance Ian could strengthen while in the ocean. Our chief meteorologist, Tim Buckley, he is tracking it closely. He'll have an update in the next few minutes.
The reason we are able to tell you so much about Ian and where it's headed is because of top-tier technology and the scientists who created it. They actually flew into the hurricane earlier this week with equipment that could save lives.
There goes the beds. Holy cow.
This is what it's like to stare a monster hurricane straight in the eye.
Oh!
Some team members from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration say Ian was the roughest hurricane flight they've ever experienced.
You good back there? Yeah, we're good.
For decades now, the government has been flying hurricane hunting aircraft in and around some of the fiercest storms on the planet. They drop sensors to measure a hurricane's strength and help forecasters on the ground predict where it's headed. But there is one place scientists can't go, the so-called boundary layer, below 3,000 feet where the air and the ocean meet, a violent churning cauldron of wind and salt water.
We as humans maybe can't go down there, but we can bring our technology down there and send that data back so that it can be used.
Joe Cione is a lead meteorologist at NOAA. Inside this 3.5-foot tube is his new secret weapon, an unmanned hurricane hunting drone.
So this drone can literally go fly around the inside of a hurricane?
Yes.
It's called the Altius 600. It weighs about 25 pounds and can fly for nearly 4 hours, feeding back real-time data to detect what scientists call intensity change.
So how strong is the storm right now, and how strong will the storm become?
The fear is rapid intensification, when hurricanes become catastrophic Category 4 or 5 storms just before landfall, giving coastal communities little time to prepare. Research shows Atlantic hurricanes are now intensifying more quickly because of warmer ocean waters, likely due to climate change. Our warmer atmosphere means they also hold more water, and rising oceans can make storm surge more devastating. So when they dropped the drone into a hurricane for the first time this week, they knew it was more than a science experiment.
By having these observations that we would otherwise not have, we can tell the forecasters and the emergency managers if the storm is as strong or weaker than they think.
Well, unfortunately, you don't get to use these drones twice. Once all the data is transmitted back to the plane, the drone ditches itself into the ocean. And just watching that last part of this, it reminded me of Twister, Dorothy.
Sure.
Remember those small little balls that they released into the tornado? I mean, it's incredible technology.
The whole goal is not to be adventurous or risky, it's to get more of that data, more of that information, because not only do they just keep that data for themselves, they give it to me, they give it to other meteorologists. It goes into our computer models that we show you on the screen, you know, those little spaghetti charts that we put on there, that actually goes into those models to make them more accurate. So it's very valuable, and without that we would have a lot harder time showing where they're going.
Yeah, I'm just amazed at how much technology and science has changed over time, and it changes things for you especially, I'm sure, just from 5-10 years ago.
It's a big difference, and you know, we can always complain about something, but honestly, decades ago, the forecasting was not nearly where it is now, and now we can afford to be a little picky about it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, we'll be right back.
So I will be very careful. Here we go. Mic check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Mic check, mic check, mic check. Mic check.
Mic check, Brad. Mic check, Brad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Mic check, Brad.
Right now, Tropical Storm Ian is heading towards the Atlantic Ocean. We're going to take another live look at Cocoa Beach at this pier here, where just within the last 20 minutes or so, it looks like it's gotten a little darker. We do have this big gray overcast, but the waves are much calmer here than our camera out in St. Augustine Beach. If you take a look to the right side, we actually have a couple folks out there playing about in the water, but things appear to be pretty calm there. Right now, Ian is on Florida's east coast and will soon head for South Carolina. It is expected to hit the coast tomorrow morning. Since Ian is back out at sea, there is a chance it could gain strength. Once it leaves South Carolina, it is projected to head our way. Our chief meteorologist, Tim Buckley, he is keeping a close eye on this. Tim, about what time will Ian arrive in our area?
Yeah, we're expecting impacts to start in the morning, but get more severe as the day goes on. So when you wake up, there will be some light to moderate rainfall, breezy, but it gets worse by the afternoon, evening, and overnight. Here's the system. We'll get new stats just in a couple of minutes right before the 5 o'clock hour. So stay tuned to News 2 at 5 o'clock for the latest on the system. You can see that's what's left of the eye. Dry air has really gobbled up a lot of the storm here, but you see it's really front loaded at the top. That's where most of the rain is. And what I just showed you, remember, we looked at that single point. The storm is way bigger and way lopsided at the moment. So the cone is not very helpful for me to show you where the impacts are going to go. This is just where the storm center is going to go. And the fact that it's bending backwards across North Carolina, it puts us on the wrong side of the storm to get more wind and more rainfall. So here's timeline for you. 5 a.m. looks like this. We're just starting to see some of the rainfall move in. It gets more intense by midday. This is the afternoon. When those reds are moving in, very difficult to drive, and it's very windy as well. The rain will start to wind down a little bit after midnight, and we're trending drier towards Saturday. Wind gusts, they've already been up a little bit today, 20 to 30 miles per hour. That's not going to hurt us. But as we add this up into the day tomorrow, see these widespread 50 mile per hour wind gusts? That's the concern that I have lasting over several hours. That is going to add up to some downed trees and some power outages. So I want you to be prepared for that. Timeline wise, we're looking at scattered showers early in the morning, steady rain midday, then the real gusty winds and the real driving rain is the evening hours. The nighttime commute does not look good. You'd like to avoid that if you can afford to. Now, impacts overall, we have the winds, we have the flooding rain. Winds, they're going to produce some of those power outages, and the rain, well, that could create some problems. This is the latest flood outlook from the National Weather Service. They have us in a level 3 out of 4 for all of central North Carolina, which means we're expected to get too much rain too quickly. Not enough places to put it. So places that get trouble spot flooding, a lot of the times, you know them in your neighborhood better than I do, they are likely to flood tomorrow. And then that water will go down on Saturday. One thing we'll have to watch on Saturday as the storm pulls away would be area rivers, places like the Dan River and, the Haw River. They will be rising heading into the weekend. Improving skies, though, for Saturday and for Sunday.
Weather problems here have pushed most of our high school football games to today. Call it Thursday football fever. WFMY News 2's Amanda Ferguson is live at Trinity High School with a preview of our game of the week against Providence Grove.
Hey Chad, yes, our game of the week here, Providence Grove coming over to Trinity later this evening. But first, I am joined with Chance Grogan. He's a senior slot, also is pretty much all over the field at all the time here. Kicker too, we play DB. Chance, how do you guys prepare for Providence Grove? And now that the games move up, how well do you feel prepared to play this game?
I feel pretty confident in our team. I think we've overcome a lot of diversity and stuff like that. We've just had really good mental focus and stuff like that. I mean, we've only had 2 practices, but everybody's been pretty focused. Everything's been on point. I think we'll do pretty good tonight.
And we were talking a couple minutes ago before this interview, and we were saying how Providence Grove beat you guys pretty bad last year. How do you guys come into this game with that mentality of, hey, this is a revenge game?
Yeah, we hope to be a big upset this time. I'd say probably just keeping our heads high, over matching their mental and physical toughness, stuff like that. We just got to go in with our heads up, play hard.
Awesome. Good luck to you guys. We will have this game and a bunch of others throughout the Triad coming up tonight on Thursday's edition of Friday Football Fever starting at 11:17.
Amanda, thank you for that. The Burlington Cummings Band is no stranger to performing on the big stage, but this high school band is marching its way to the national spotlight. WFMY News 2's Jalen Gilkey caught up with the Cavaliers ahead of their big trip. Jalen.
Yeah, Lauren, most high school bands only get the opportunity to perform at football games on Friday nights and homecoming parades. But the Cavaliers marching band from Burlington Cummings High School is looking to make sweet memories this New Year's Eve at the All-State Sugar Bowl.
We're just excited for another great opportunity to perform and show now the nation what little Burlington can do. And the kids have been working extremely hard, and they keep stepping up, and we're just so excited, again, for all the community always supporting us and rallying behind us for this great effort.
What makes the band special? The diversity, the talent, the energy. The people themselves are really good. Us together, it's like a family.
Here we go. A one, a two,
We distribute our energy to the school, and that means a lot to the school because it means that if the band has a lot of energy, the school has a lot of energy, and the school that has a lot of energy is a good school.
I joined band in 6th grade, so I've been here quite a while now. It's become a family to me.
Since I've been here, I've always been trying to provide experiences that will change the kid's life. And my motto is I want to have good people, not just good musicians. And in 50 years, these kids will remember playing in New Orleans at the Sugar Bowl. And again, that's the greatest feeling that, again, we're doing things now the kids will remember for a lifetime.
One, two, 27-year-old Aaliyah LaGrande was driving through the line when her car hit Jenkins. Jenkins died from her injuries on Sunday. Police say.
Mic check for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Hey, the Carolina Beach, it's called the Boardwalk, right? Who knows the answer to that? Everyone?
Hey, ice cold milk and an Oreo cookie, they forever go together like a classic combination.
Mic check, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. We are here in Alamance County. Schools are closed tomorrow because of the weather.
It's hard to watch some of the video out of Florida showing the devastation from Hurricane Ian. Most of us can't imagine a storm like that uprooting our lives, and there are so many examples of it now. Maybe you know someone who's dealing with that catastrophe in the Sunshine State, or maybe you're just seeing it unfold on TV. Either way, it's heartbreaking. We know we will see minor effects in our area over the coming days. Our weather team is forecasting a lot of wind and a lot of rain, but it's not supposed to be anything like what they have seen in Florida. Let's remember that as we go about the next few days. Maybe your outdoor plans have changed. Maybe you're like me, planning to go to the Panthers game in Charlotte on Sunday. It might be a rain-drenched mess, but at least floodwaters haven't filled our homes or ruined our cars or left us homeless. Let's keep that in mind and keep our neighbors in Florida in our thoughts and prayers. That's just my 2 cents, and your 4 to 5. WFMY News 2 at 5 starts right now. The strengthening Hurricane Ian is pushing up the opposite coast of Florida today. This is a live look on Cocoa Beach, where surfers and others are out back in the water just miles from that storm.
Ian left a lot of damage in its wake. Search and rescue efforts started around 1 a.m. and across Florida, 260 shelters are open and housing 34,000 people.
Today is time for all North Carolinians to ready ourselves